What was the most common word that John used in describing God? It was, his hair was like. His eyes were like. You remember it? You say, that person sings like. No, today, as we are saying, you see, that person sings like. Bird. Bird is a symbol. And we want to explain how nicely the person sings. That person is stupid like a rock. We use symbols every day in our conversations. So when you use the word like or as, it means you're using symbol and you want to illustrate how something looks like. So many times John had to use his own symbol to explain to the readers what he saw in the vision because it was inexplicable. So friends, let's now summarize what we are talking about. We want to set certain rules now. Okay, let us go to the rest of the Bible. Let's forget the book of Daniel and the book of Revelation. When we read the Bible in general, are you still with me? You read the Bible. And you have the text there in front of yourself. What are you supposed to assume? Is that the text that you are reading, is that literal or symbolic? I will not move on until I hear the answer. But generally speaking, when you read the text, except we are not talking about Revelation and Daniel, we are talking the rest of the Bible. What you read, when you take it, when you read it, is that literal or symbolic? What are you supposed to what is the kind of assumption that you must have when you read the Bible? Doslovno. Friends, this is very important. Because today we are facing today serious problems. When I was with Jehovah's Witnesses, years ago, when I talked to them, I tried to use Genesis 2 to explain to them about the origin of the Sabbath. And they said to me, come on. The days of the creation that God was creating, they're not 24 hours. It's a symbol. And the Sabbath on which God rested is a symbol, not literal day. So that Sabbath that God started taking rest is still that Sabbath. It's still today. It's symbolic. It's about 7,000 years. And I was almost jealous of God because God has rest 7,000 years. Oh boy, what kind of life? I'm joking. But I'm not joking. Today I see Seventh-day Adventist scientists who try to somehow endorse evolution. They're using today the same method. Yeah, the Bible says 6 days, but they are actually long periods of time. Just a few million of years. When the Bible says 6 days and the 7th day, the Bible really means that. How do you know that? Because in 6 days, God worked, so you should work 6 days. Am I correct? Since God rested on the seventh day, you have to rest on the seventh day. The fourth commandment does not say that God rested in 6 periods of several million years, so I have to rest in several periods, so I have to work in several periods of several million years.
Biblija ne kaže da je Bog radio nekim dugim periodama od nekoliko miliona i da je u sedmom danu, jednom drugom danu od nekoliko miliona godina se odmarao. To znači, ne znači da mi isto treba da radimo nekih 6 miliona godina, a da se odmaramo 1 milion godina.
When the Bible says that God spoke to Noah and the flood came, that's a literal flood. That's not symbolic.
Kad je Bog govorio sa Nojom i rekao mu je da dolazi potop, to je bila stvarna stvar, ne neki simbol.
When Joseph came to Egypt, it was a real man named Joseph.
Kada je Josef došao u Egipat, to je bio stvarni Josef, ne neki simbol.
So friends, when we read the Bible, is it literal or symbolic?
Da li je to doslovno ili simbolično?
Are you still with me? Unless there is always but. There is always but. There is always one but, and it means that there are always some exceptions. Sometimes there is a text that is symbolic. When you read in Isaiah chapter 6, let me sing a song of my dear one. My dear one has a vineyard on the fruitful hill. He put a fence around that vineyard. And he put a tower in that vineyard. Is that literal or symbolic? Symbol, because the text explains that vineyard is the people of Israel. The fence, it meant the law of God that protected them, etc. When you go to the book of Psalms, you will find many symbols there. David said, the waters came against me up to here. Yeah, are they literal waters? No, David talks about his enemies who were there. But you see, friends, when you read the text is obvious that it is symbolic. It's symbolic. But normally when you read the rest of the Bible, you have to understand that it is literal. Are you still with me? So you start with literal. However, when you go to the book of Revelation, the rule is completely opposite. What does it mean? When you take the text, what do you have to keep in mind? What is the assumption that you must have in your head? That the text that you read, it's actually primarily symbolic. Unless, except that the text indicates that it is literal. What does it? When John said, John, I was on island called Patmos, is that literal or symbolic? When John said, I fell at the feet of angels speaking to him to worship him, and he said, don't do it, is that literal or symbolic? Doesn't make sense to you. So, usually people ask me, so how can I know, when you deal with Revelation, what can you explain me, how to be sure that it is symbol? My answer is, when John is shown something in the vision, it's symbolic. When outside of the vision, the angel tries to explain to him about the meaning of the vision, it's usually literal. You will see, John says, I saw the woman sitting on the beast.
Ja vidim da jedna žena sedi na toj zveri
And he said, the beast had 7 heads.
i ta zver ima 7 glava.
You see, it's symbolic.
Vidite, to je simbolično.
But the angel then explains to John, telling him those heads are actually 7 kingdoms.
Ali onda anđeo objašnjava Jovanu i kaže, te glave u stvari misle, znače 7 carstava.
I know when there is question to the afternoon, I will not miss the question about 7 heads of the beast.
Mi nećemo izostaviti objašnjenje od značenja 7 glava ove zveri.
Because that's the problem everywhere people have with that.
To je problem koji sam svuda video.
But friends, as we read the book of Revelation, we have to understand that some symbols are, the next one please.
Čitamo knjige Otkrivenja.
Okay. No. We have to go back. Determining, it's the beginning. Back. Yes. To determine what should be understood symbolically, what should be taken literally in some parts of Revelation, it's not always an easy task.
Znači da bi odlučili šta treba da se razume simbolički i šta treba da se razume literarno i doslovno u otkrivenju, nije uvek vrlo lako.
I'm giving you some general principles.
Daću vam sada nekoliko ovih pravila,
but it's not always easy.
ali to nije uvek lako.
You see, some symbols are explained in the book.
Neki simboli su objašnjeni u knjizi.
You remember, John saw a dragon.
I vidimo, Jovan je video u aždaju.
You go to verse 9, it says the dragon is Satan. It's clearly explained.
I u 9. stihu on jasno objašnjava da je taj aždaj je Satan.
In chapter 17, John was told that the woman sits on many waters. In the same chapter 17, verse 15, the angel explains to John that the waters are many people, nations, and tongues. When John saw the lamb slain, it's clear that it's Jesus Christ. You don't need to wonder. Woman stands as a symbol for the church. But friends, there are many symbols that are not explained. And here we have the problems. And that's what we are struggling. I'm doing my best to understand those symbols. And that person, he's doing his best to understand that, the same symbol. We are doing our best. But we disagree. Who is right? Who is wrong? I am right because it's me. And that person is wrong because he disagrees with me. See, that's why we have to listen to each other. Who is right? Who is wrong? Only the future will show. That's why we do not need to force something that is not clear in the book of Revelation. We have to work together, to listen to each other, to study together. And love to each other. Let me use one illustration. Sometimes I wonder why I'm using this, but I want you to understand how the things are not always easy. Are you ready for this? Please, can you now leave any reading? Can you just focus on me? Okay. Okay. Let's just ask you. I just want to see how it's not easy. Revelation 20. What do we have in Revelation 20? The millennium. Okay. Now you have to help me. And I saw an angel, John said, and the angel had in his hands the chains. Are those chains literal or symbolic? Thank you. We agree on that. So there's no literal chains that the angel would like to bind Satan. That's symbolic. And he said, and he took a hold of the dragon, the great serpent. He took a hold. Great serpent. Is it literal or symbolic? So it's not literal serpent. It's a Satan himself. Okay? And he said, and he bound him. Is it literal or symbolic? How do you know that it is symbolic? Because when you read the next of the text, because there are no living beings on the earth, Satan is alone, so he cannot deceive people. He is bound by circumstances. So everything is symbolic. Did we agree on that? The next one. For 1,000 years. I don't hear you. On which days it is literal. Everything symbolic. When we come to 1,000 years, it's a literal number. And there are people who believe that this is not literal, that this is a symbolic number. Why? Because the Jewish people believe when the Messiah comes, there will be 1,000 years. Friends, please, you have now to understand me something. I am not saying that it is not literal. Are you still with me? But you see, if that you say it is literal. You say it is literal. But there is a person who says, no, I believe in symbolic. That's the reason I don't like that person because he disagrees with me. Who is right? Who is correct? Is it possible that it is literal? Yes. Is it possible that it is symbolic? Yes. Who is right? You see, that's the reason why we have to wait. There is one long period. There is one long period, we call it the millennium. But is it the real 1,000 years? Or is it symbolic 1,000 years? Or long period? We don't know. But you see, if people disagree, we still have to love each other, to listen to each other, because according to the book of Revelation, there is no any indication, because 1,000 years is mentioned only in Revelation chapter 20. I can give you many other examples like this. That's why we have to love each other, we have to listen to each other. But I cannot take other people what they say. When they take the entire book of Revelation, they interpret literally. To agree with the people who we will talk about that. You take 144,000 as a literal number. How can you take 144,000 as literal? But reject that there are not 12 literal tribes of Israel. They say, you select what you need, what you fit your ideas. Okay? Let's move on. When we, friends, study the text of the book of Revelation, it's the meaning of the symbols in Revelation begins the sentence. Okay. Our understanding must be controlled. No, it's the next one, meaning of the symbols in Revelation. Yes. We must understand that we have to ask ourselves the question, what was the inspired author? What was his intention when he used that symbol?
pitamo šta je bila namera pisca kad je upotrebljavao te simbole.
Because those symbols were taken from the first century when the time lived, not our today's symbols.
Jer ti simboli su uzeti iz prvog stoljeća, a to nisu naši simboli.
I'm skipping just because I want to finish in 2-3 minutes.
Želio bih da završim u 2 minuta.
I'm going to the section, it's underlined, called Four Sources of the Symbols in Revelation.
I sad dolazimo na taj deo gdje se kaže 4 izvora simbola u Otkrivenju.
Four sources, symbols in Revelation. We have to roll. Yes. The next one. Friends, I just want to give you help in next 2-3 minutes. But you say, I want to study the book of Revelation. My intention is when I leave, that with your pastor who is excellent, I don't know any other pastor in our church who made so many evangelistic series in the book of Revelation like Pastor Rangelovic.
Vaš pastor je izvanredan, ne znam jednog pastora koji je više evanđelističkih serija o Otkrivenju dao kao vaš pastor.
I want that you become motivated and to organize small groups and you study the book of Revelation. So now you ask the question, how can I study? How can I find the meaning of the symbols? Yes, you see, friends, first we have to find out where the symbols were taken from. Actually, it was about 100 years ago. One scholar, he documented that actually of 404 verses in the book of Revelation. The next slide. The book of Revelation consists of 404 verses. 100 years ago, he showed that actually about 280 verses were taken directly from the Old Testament. Can you imagine? 280 verses were taken from the Old Testament. 280. Today we know more than 300 verses. They can be traced directly to the Old Testament. So let me ask you, when you have a text, you have the symbol, where are you supposed to go to find, in order to find the meaning of that symbol? To go to the Old Testament. Are you still friends with me? You just go to find out where it is found in the Old Testament. We practice it already in the New Jerusalem there. You saw it. We saw. If you want to understand why the New Jerusalem is the perfect cube. You go to the Old Testament and you find the explanation for that. We saw it. So, the first step is to go to the Old Testament because that symbol is taken from there. Actually, the rest, probably about 1/5 of all verses, that symbol was taken from different other sources. Actually, you can see in the Old Testament. See, the lamb, the root of David, sealing of the faithful, seals, trumpets, 144,000 seals, pečati, locust, image of the beast, mark of the beast, Sodom and Egypt, etc. Everything is taken from the Old Testament. Actually, if you go to the rest, you will see some symbols are taken from Jewish apocalyptic literature. First century world of Asia Minor. Asia Minor from, okay. Then New Testament, okay, etc. Actually, don't be bothered with the rest. I'm just giving you help. When you study the book of Revelation, friends, you have to understand that we have today the best commentary for the studying of the book of Revelation. No, today we have the best commentary on the book of Revelation. Have you seen that commentary? That commentary is not made by Stefanovic. This is the best commentary. If you want to understand the book of Revelation, just go to the Old Testament, New Testament. It will give you, in 90% of all cases, it will give you the clue for the understanding of the symbol. During the sermon, we will practice it and today afternoon. Okay? I just want to tell you, if you do it this way, you will see that the book of Revelation is a very easy book. All my students at the end of the semester, I said, but the book of Revelation is not difficult at all. If you are using imagination, it's very difficult. Only people who have huge imagination, they become expert for the book of Revelation. But if you use this commentary, it's not difficult at all. We will see today as we are moving on. May God bless you. Thank you.